All right, welcome everybody. Just so the public knows that are watching on YouTube, we do not. We're having technical difficulties, so this you might just be able to hear us and not necessarily see us tonight. We apologize for that, and hopefully we'll be up and running soon. Today is April 27th, and it is 6:07 p.m. and all council members are in attendance. We'd also like to recognize Sheriff Sparks here and also Sergeant Pope. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Soderquist, and then I will give the prayer.
Please stand and repeat after me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Father, we're so grateful to meet here tonight as the South Weber City Council. So grateful for the opportunity to serve our community, and we pray for those residents that live here in South Weber. We're so grateful for this place, and we ask for thy guidance and direction this evening in making decisions regarding our citizens, that we will make the best decisions for them. Father, we're grateful for those who serve to protect us and keep us safe, and pray that thou will watch over and protect them as well. Our fire department, our police, the military, all those who give us the quality of life that we have here. We're so grateful for them. Father, we're grateful for all our blessings and pray for thy spirit this evening in thy son's name. Amen. All right. First of all, we have a corona update. So there are only 6 active cases in South Weber City right now. Almost 40% of Davis County has received the first dose of vaccine. Almost 27% of Davis County is fully vaccinated. For ages 70 plus, 91% have had their first dose and 87% have had their second dose. For ages 65 through 69, 87% have had their first dose and 79% their second dose. The 50 to 64 age range, 70% have had their first dose and 57% their second dose. And 18 to 49, 47% have had the first dose and 24% their second dose. So if it was up to the 65 and older, we would have pretty much achieved herd immunity. The younger ages are not getting out as much, and so that is a concern. The vaccinations are dropping, numbers are dropping off. So encourage people, please, to get out and get their vaccinations. By July 1st, we will have very few restrictions in place. So that's kind of the date they're shooting for, to kind of get back to the old normal. Also, Davis County is bringing Johnson & Johnson vaccine back. And I think that's all I have for the corona update this week. So let's move to public comment. Please state your name and address. Please speak for 3 minutes or less. Address the entire council and know that we will not respond during public comment. We're now open for public comment. Okay, hearing none. Hearing none, we will move to Davis County Sheriff's Quarterly Report. So Sergeant Pope is here from Davis County to report the happenings in South Weber City since January 25th.
Okay. Boy, it seems like I was just here, and here we are 3 months later. This is always a good time here. I really enjoy coming down here and talking with you guys. So The last one that we did was January 19th, so we are about almost 3 full months past that. And we've had a lot of complaints of speeding throughout the city that we've been trying to adhere to and do extra patrols. Our main one was Old Fort Road. We've had a lot of complaints in that area because of what we've been told is it's the soccer field, people coming down and driving through the neighborhood using it as a thoroughfare. We've had 15 extra patrols in that area since that complaint in, I believe it was February that we got that complaint. And so we're trying to mash those down as we get those complaints.
Was that on Old Maple Road?
Yes, Old
Old
Maple.
Maple, okay.
Did I say Fort?
Mhm.
I'm so sorry. I meant Old Maple. We have an old fort in Fruit Heights as well, so I sometimes mix those up. I think we're on the budget.
Yeah, you're
You
welcome
know-
to discuss our budget.
I don't think I want to talk about the budget.
Mm.
I'll stay in my lane.
It's not on the screen behind you.
While they're figuring that out, is there any specific areas that you would like us to concentrate on that you guys know of recently? I just talked with Wayne about a certain area, but are there any other areas you guys would like us to concentrate on?
I haven't heard from any residents.
Okay, good. I heard Paul said Deer Run is one that he would like looked at, but Deer, right.
The northbound off-ramp off of 89 onto South River Drive, especially during rush hour traffic, you're now seeing vehicles actually jumping the concrete median
Really?
between coming off and getting back on. The impatience of having to wait through the traffic because the lights at the bottom of the hill, and it's only going to get worse
Okay.
for the next several years, especially with the announcement of
The I-84 project.
the I-84,
Yeah.
89 project. I don't know, having someone stationed out there, one thing, but that seems to be a problem. Frustrations are going to continue to mount,
Okay.
and I hate to see people take matters into their own hands.
I agree. And we have had that similar type incident happen in the past. Someone trying to take it into their own hands and it turns into an altercation. And while whoever's watching, we would recommend that in that type of situation, you report it to us, get a license plate if you can, and we'll take care of it. Don't intervene in this type of stuff on your own because you never know what someone's capable of anymore these days. So we would want to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So,
It's, people are trying to take longer to merge over, so people.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then they're going excessive speeds on the off ramp, and then they're pulling U-turns.
Yep. They
So,
turn right and then you turn back around. Yeah.
It's a problem.
Yeah. Okay. I will put in an extra patrol for that area. And it's pretty much every day, right? It's not just okay.
And I was going to say, I've seen them over there a lot and I appreciate it. I'm wondering if maybe they're a little further down Cornea.
Okay.
There's not enough visibility.
Okay.
Just having their presence
Sure.
there
Just the
deters
visibility
it.
of being there.
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to catch people doing it. You just want to be visible.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
I got that. All right.
Isn't that safety equipment? I think we bought like safety glasses. I wonder if it's some kind of safety equipment for the fire station. Isn't that required?
We'll take a 5-minute intermission.
I can pull up my presentation on my phone here and at least go through the information with you.
Ridiculous.
Oh, looks like we might have gotten it now. All right.
Sergeant, can I ask you a question while we look
Absolutely.
at that? So with the
Absolutely.
patrols, extra patrols on Old Maple Road,
Yes.
was there a lot of citations given? Were there a lot of repeat offenders or were they all?
The ones that, so I conducted 3 of them myself, and it's hard to determine when there are people coming and going because we don't know when, we don't have the game schedule. We don't know when games are on. So the most people that I pulled over were actually residents in the neighborhood. And when I pulled up their driver's license, it was actually people who lived in that neighborhood.
Okay.
And they even admitted that they were ones that had complained about it. And so that was my experience, but I wasn't there on a day that we actually had high traffic flow through there.
Okay.
I actually didn't pull the citation statistics on those extra patrols, but I can do that and get that to you if you'd like.
Okay. Great,
And
thank you.
I'll write that down right here.
And in the
so.
future, from our experience of going over there and listening to them and watching, it's
Mhm.
been between 5:30 to 7:30.
Yeah, it seems like
is
it's
the
those
worst.
game times, right? Yeah. And
just-
it's not just speeding. It seems like it's
Mhm.
running the stop sign as well because
Yeah.
they're in a hurry to get through.
Yeah, that's right where we stood.
Yeah, okay. I got out and talked with a bunch of the neighbors all around the area for a
Thank
little
you.
bit. So,
Appreciate you doing that.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm Sergeant Pope. I've been in EMS for 20 years. I've been a law enforcement officer for 14, and all of those years have actually been at the sheriff's office. So I bleed tan and green. So if you guys need anything, that's where I am right here. I don't know if you can click on the South Weber hours there for me. So this is our compilation of the hours that our deputies use to track their activity in each one of our contract cities, South Weber being the one, obviously, that we're concentrating on today. So our average weekly average total of hours is 101.3. Like I said, when I very first took over South Weber about a year and a half, almost 2 years ago, my goal was to get that number over 100, and we've consistently done that since I kind of made that my goal. So 101.3, I'm very happy with that. If you want to keep scrolling down there a little bit. The work performance during those 101.3 hours is we've had 662 calls for service. That could be self-initiated or actual 911 calls into it. So it actually incorporates both of those. We've had 13 arrests, 85 traffic stops, 38 citations with 26 violations on those citations, and 37 radar enforcements. So that's pretty big. That goes for school zones, that goes for Old Maple, that goes for anywhere that these officers are sitting, 37 of them. And then we've had 3 DUIs in the city. And 52% of our calls that are listed right there have all been self-initiated. So that's a deputy getting out, doing extra patrols, doing radar enforcements, doing winter parking, which was a big issue this year, and we tried to combat that a lot. So 52% of those calls, roughly 330 of them, were self-initiated by our deputies. And I think we're good to go to the next slide there. And that one's actually an old one. I meant to take that off of there. I apologize. We can go. We'll go to the next one. So the significant events. This is everyone's favorite part, right? We got to hear what's happened over the past 3 months. So I started taking dates out of them, like actual dates, and just listing the month so that it lessens the ability to identify someone or someone's address or something like that in this event. So in January, on 475 East and Peterson Parkway, who had an evading. This one we can give an address because it's an evading. Deputy Robinson attempted to stop a vehicle at the above location. The vehicle failed to yield and was later located by Highway Patrol in Uinta. The vehicle was found to be occupied by a 19-year-old male and 15-year-old female. There was also a jar with approximately 20 grams of marijuana located inside, which the male had offered to the female. The driver was then booked on the following charges: stop sign violation, expired registration, evading, possession of marijuana, possession of paraphernalia, contributing to a minor, endangering a minor, and placed on an adult probation and parole hold. So he's already on probation. And the female was returned home with her mother in good condition. And actually, one of those for a whole 10 days in January, that's awesome. So if that's all we had, right? February, we had structure fire on South Weber Drive. We had South Weber Fire and other agencies respond to the fire. The fire was contained to the attic. So far, there was nothing suspicious. We don't believe that there was arson or anything. It was an accident. We don't know exactly what caused it at this point yet. The house had just been sold, and the fire department stated the house is uninhabitable. I think that house now might have been demolished or partially anyway. Another one in February, there was a sex offense reported from McCady Hospital. There's a 15-year-old male who sexually assaulted a 13-year-old male in South Weber. This incident occurred earlier in the month, and the initial report was taken by and detectives were advised. So we had detectives and DCFS out there, and they've all conducted follow-ups on that. I think that's still an ongoing case as of right now, actually. In February, another ungovernable juvenile male was on leave from a group home that he lives in. While visiting the family, while visiting with family, he became upset and began arguing and becoming violent. Law enforcement was called, and the juvenile grabbed a knife, making threats to hurt himself. The knife was able to be taken away. Nobody was injured, and he was taken in for a mental health evaluation. That actually occurs quite often, surprisingly. It's becoming more of a problem. In March, there was an elderly abuse neglect. South Weber Fire reported a possible elderly abuse due to the significant delay in reporting a femur fracture on an elderly female. Contact was made with detectives, and they immediately went out and began an investigation. The investigation is still ongoing with that. It actually takes quite a bit of information to interview a bunch of people and go through documents and everything like that. So our detectives are still working on that case. In March, there was warrant service. A male was taken into custody for several fugitive status warrants. He was the operator of an RV, which had been previously reported by code enforcement. So Chris Tremea, thank you, right? And it was parked, and they were living out of it in the park and ride. Contact was made with the ex-wife of the owner. The owner of the RV advised that the male was okay to be in possession of the RV, but was unaware he was using it to illegally camp. The RV was found. It was removed as of the evening of that report. Trespassing in March, a male was reported to have been parked in the parking lot of the Peterson Farms Assisted Living Center in South Weber for several hours and found sleeping in his vehicle. Contact was made with him, and he was instructed to relocate. He relocated, but a short time later, after the initial contact had discontinued, he returned to the Assisted Living Center and began banging on the facility doors. The male was contacted a second time and instructed to stay off the Assisted Living Center property. He was cautioned with the consequence of arrest, and if he failed to comply and discontinue his disorderly behavior, then he would be arrested. The complainant of the facility and the facility owner were contacted and provided a summary of the contact with the male. Right now, there is no trespass order, and they're not being pursued at this point with that person. This being said, we've had a lot of complaints from Peterson Farms Assisted Living Center with their employees feeling that there was some suspicious people out in the area when they're going home at night. We've reached out to them and told them anytime you feel like you are about to leave, you can call us. We'll come out and escort you to your car. And that goes with any business here, any business or resident in the city. If you feel like that, we will come out and make sure that you get to your car safely. In March, there was alcohol violation, criminal trespass. A male was found to be intoxicated and passed out in the driver's seat of a vehicle. The owner of the vehicle and of the residence stated he's never met the suspect and when he found him there. So he came out and found an intoxicated person sleeping in his car in his driveway. The suspect was wearing ski clothing and ski boots, but he was so intoxicated it was difficult to get much information from him. It even took him a few inquiries to finally identify him. A PBT indicated that he was a 0.23, which is quite high. After identifying him, they were able to find his address. He was issued a citation, driven home, and left in the care of his parents. At his parents' home, the suspect stated he left his vehicle somewhere on Cornea Drive, but he did not have the keys on his person. We returned and searched for the vehicle, but were unable to find it. On follow-up, the suspect said that his vehicle was left at the ski resort in Weber County, and he caught a ride home from a friend. So it's really, we don't know how he got in this vehicle.
Wow.
A suspicious trespassing. Deputy Gall responded to a report of a suspicious person at Peterson Farms Assisted Living in South Weber, the same as before. It was reported the male was parked in the parking lot in a maroon SUV. This is consistent with previous incidents with the male. On arrival, he identified the male. Basically, we urged him again not to park on that property or set foot on the property, even though they did not want a trespass order issued on this one either. Welfare check. Male told a neighbor that he was feeling suicidal and needed help. The neighbor called the Davis County Sheriff's Office. The male was sitting in his car and was distraught but very compliant. He stated he wanted both medical and psychiatric treatment and to be taken to McKay. South Weaver Fire responded and transported him there. He was not pink sheeted due to his want and willingness to go. And that's another issue that we're running into with COVID and financial issues is suicide threats. And I know the last thing you want to see when you're down and out as a police officer, but I guarantee you we're there to help. We want to help people. So if you guys know of anyone or if anyone listening is having any types of those thoughts, please give us a call. Let us help you. We're not going to treat you bad, treat you poorly. We want to help you get there. And that's last time I talked about our receiving center. We can actually get you that help. We have means to do that. Another suicide threat in March. Male frantically approached a deputy as he was parked in the area of the Highmark Charter, stating that his wife was suicidal and had been running and jumping in front of cars in front of South Weaver Drive, and then ran down into the gravel pit. She was located on the south side of the gravel pit, at the top of the drop-off. Deputies contacted her, and she began to run back up towards South Weaver Drive into traffic again. She was detained and was transported to Ogden Regional without any injuries, thankfully, for a mental commitment. March, a suspicious theft. Several residents in the area under construction at the Nelson Homes Division. This is the one that I posted on Facebook. I'm sure you actually all have probably already seen this one, but they called to report a suspicious male in a Ford pickup driving around the area with a male and female occupant who appeared to be entering homes under construction. A deputy responded to the area and located the truck, which was occupied by a female. She advised that the male with her had ran upon the deputy's arrival and had gone into the residence under construction. The residence was searched, but he was not located. An area search was conducted, including the other homes under construction and surrounding fields, neighborhoods, but he was still not located. Upon speaking further with the female, she stated that the two of them were homeless and in the area looking for a house to stay in. A probable cause search of the vehicle was conducted with several open containers, paraphernalia, and controlled substances located inside. A large amount of property, including power tools, electronics, sporting goods, and other items were found inside of the truck. The female was booked in jail for several charges, and the male has been identified but hasn't been caught as of yet. I actually think they have caught him now as of today. They were not sure. They ran all of that property to find out if it was stolen, but most people don't know the serial numbers to all of their tools. I know I don't. So they weren't able to positively identify them as of yet either, that property. In April, juvenile problem, 10-year-old female went to her friend's house in South Weaver to play with their dog while everyone was gone and the house was empty. She entered the home through the unlocked back door. After playing in the house for a couple of hours, she left and took a few items and $50 cash with her. The items were dropped on the ground near the back fence, and she took the money home with her. The suspect was identified and located at her house a few blocks away. After speaking with the suspect and her parents, a full confession was obtained and the money returned. This is actually actually the same suspect that stole a few chickens as well. So we've had an ongoing problem.
Wow.
In April, we had a fail to stop at the command of a police officer. This one, Deputy Turley did a fantastic job on this one. Deputy Turley observed a suspicious vehicle that attempted to catch up to it to perform a traffic stop for an equipment violation. The car sped away into the neighborhood near South Weaver Elementary before Deputy Turley could attempt the traffic stop. He found the car parked on the west side of the elementary school and observed 4 people running away from the car. He got out of his truck and yelled at them to stop. All 4 people continued running. He located one of the adult males and an adult female on the next street west. A juvenile male was located a few houses away. Containment was set up with the assistance of the highway patrol. The final outstanding adult male and driver of the vehicle was eventually located on an access road which runs along the hill separating South Weaver from Hill Air Force Base. He was then taken into custody without incident. 3 of the people were arrested and 1 released on citation. The female suspect was arrested for an outstanding warrant and charged with possession of paraphernalia, failure to stop at the command of a peace officer. 1 male suspect was outstanding AP&P fugitive, so adult probation and parole fugitive. And he was arrested for 2 no-bail warrants and charged with a Class A misdemeanor, DUI, various traffic offenses, and failure to stop at the command of a peace officer, possession of drug paraphernalia. The juvenile male was arrested and on a pickup order and charged with failure to stop at the command of a peace officer and consumption of alcohol by a minor, false ID to a peace officer, and open container. And the last was released on citation for charges for fleeing from a police officer. So all of those were in one stop. Quite a night for them. In April, they had a suspicious circumstance. Sergeant Yama was conducting extra patrol when he located remnants of a vehicle that appeared to have been cut up using industrial type equipment. No VIN was present, and the information has been forwarded to detectives based on chop shops and related illegal activities taking place in South Weaver in the past. Like long past, obviously. You guys have not heard of any of this recently, so it's been a while. April, we had an unattended death. A male called dispatch stating his wife had just shot herself and injuries appeared incompatible with life. Deputies responded to provide medical care and law enforcement assistance. The female was found to be deceased on scene. Detectives, crime lab, and medical examiner responded and took over the investigation. Domestic assault, female victim entered Maverick gas station to report that she had just been assaulted. She had sustained a laceration of her forehead and scalp, minor abrasions to her hands, and complained of flank pain. She reported that her boyfriend suspect had forcefully removed her from the truck when she was parked at the South Weaver Park and Ride. The male broke the driver's side window of the vehicle to remove her. After assaulting her, the male then left the scene and called 911 as he left the scene to tell us that she had stolen his truck. So that's why he had assaulted her. The female received medical treatment and was transported to Davis Hospital. The male was contacted and arrested for assault. He was transported to Davis County Jail. Although he initially reported that he was the victim of a stolen truck, he refused to press charges on that. So she was not charged with that, and she was left at Davis Hospital for medical treatment. This one was suspicious this last week. There were several complaints called to a report of shots fired in an address in South Weaver. A neighbor who wishes to remain anonymous had surveillance video of what appeared to be a male firing a handgun in his backyard several times and then leaving in a gold passenger vehicle. There's an extensive history at that house with an individual who is known to make threats against law enforcement and reportedly owns firearms. The neighbors did not want to give the surveillance video to the deputy for fear of retaliation, which is completely understandable. But at that point, we have no evidence and we can't take any legal action. So we have been providing several extra patrols in the area. They believe they've actually found the vehicle and identified the suspect. So we're still working on that to try and get basically law enforcement through our own means if we can't through a complainant. So we are still working on that one. I think that's about it. New goings on at the sheriff's office. We have vaccinated quite a large number of our inmates, so that's actually good. We had a small outbreak a while ago, but now all of those inmates have actually recovered, and we have the other ones getting vaccinations at this point. We hope to get them completely vaccinated here soon, so we don't have to worry about our jail being exposed. That's one of our biggest things. We also had tablets that were given to inmates, which I know sounds like it's kind of giving a kid a toy that they don't deserve. But at the same time, if you think about it, these inmates are going to be released back into society, and they're going to be our neighbors. They're going to be, and we want to make them productive members. A huge thing at our sheriff's office is to rehabilitate these people so they can re-enter society successfully. They can do their schoolwork. They can get high school diplomas. They can do talk with their clergy. They can, it makes such a better inmate population if we are able to do that, and we're able to monitor everything that they're doing. So I think it's a really cool program. I think it's amazing to allow these inmates to rehabilitate better. So I think that's about all that I can think of at this point. I know we were just told that in July we're going to have some South Weaver probably events, so we're getting ready to start that up. So is there anything else that you guys had that you had a question about, or any areas that we can concentrate on that we hadn't talked about before? No?
With the homeless, I mean, if someone reports a homeless person just wandering around or camping out, what is the protocol for you when you approach them? Do you offer them a ride to a facility for the homeless, or do?
Yeah, the first thing that we want to do is we want to find out how we can help them. Our thing isn't to charge them, take them to jail, and go from there. That's not how we want to serve the citizens or the homeless. The first thing we want to do is find out how can we help them. Is it a residence issue? Is it an income issue? Is it a psychiatric issue? A lot of the homeless have psychiatric issues and can't re-enter the workforce. So our first thing that we want to do is find out what is causing the homelessness, the problem, and how can we help them out? If that is just a residence issue, then yes, we have shuttled them to nearby. We don't have one in Davis County, but there's one in Ogden, the Lantern House. We've shuttled them those places before to try and help them get the resources they need. So with homelessness in South Weaver, which really doesn't happen very often, but we have seen it before, that's how we try to approach that.
Okay, good. Thank you. Any other questions?
Nope.
Sergeant Pope, we appreciate you
Great.
and appreciate your report.
Yeah, no
Thanks so
problem.
much for coming, and you too, Sheriff Sparks. We please take back to your organization how much we appreciate them and all the. Oh,
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
we
Thank you.
love having you here.
You guys are doing a good job.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Okay. Next, we have the approval of consent agenda, which consists of the April 8th minutes, the March check register, and the February budget act. Are there any questions or comments on the consent agenda?
I have a couple questions on the budget, if you don't mind. Just for my understanding, sorry, let me find the right page. On page 11, the 554, it's charged twice for Roy City Rescue patient transport. What is that for?
Whenever Roy's ambulance service comes into the city and does the transport, because we're on another call and we have to use them twice, they've called on Roy's ambulance to come in and transport within the city. So when that happens, then they send us a bill for the transport.
It doesn't go to the patient?
The bill from us to them for service takes place for the entirety of it, and then we have to pay Roy for their portion of the service, which is the paramedic transport.
Okay, thank you. And then on page 17, the $5,000 for the SAFER grant, was that being a shared cost?
What do you mean a shared cost?
Did we pay the whole thing? I thought that could be my mistake, but.
No, that was the SAFER grant, if you recall, was the grant that we applied for. And similar to how we've had help in the past for grant writing, that was a grant writing help.
Okay. Okay. Those are my only questions.
Okay, anyone else? Then do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any further comment? All right, then we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 Okay, and motion carries unanimously. Next item is ordinance 2021-02, City Code Title 7, Chapter 4-3, Park Regulations. The construction of a dog park prompted a look at park regulations. Staff found some necessary updates. The Parks Committee reviewed the changes and recommended the code change, which will allow the park rules to be amended in the future without an additional code rewrite. Council reviewed the draft and suggested some changes. It was returned to committee and is now coming forward for final review. Are there any questions or comments on this ordinance?
So I did send out a proposed change to section G1. I don't know what the other council members' thoughts are on that, but I just wanted to make it a little bit more clear about where the dogs are not allowed, that it's only the dog park. Do you want me to read it, or?
Yes,
Is everybody
yes, would you? That'd be great.
So currently it states certain animals prohibited except as provided herein. The only animals permitted within the city parks are dogs. And then it goes on to say that they're not allowed, though, except in a dog park. And so I'm recommending that we change it to Certain animals prohibited. No dogs, pets, or other domesticated animals are allowed in any city park except as provided herein. And then we'd add, dogs may be allowed within a designated dog park. See separate dog park rules and regulations.
Okay. That-
And it could be revised to, anything else, but that's the proposal I put forward.
All right. Dave, did you have a
Yeah,
comment?
just one staff comment on that. We had a chance as staff to review that email and that suggestion. Perhaps an unintended consequence of the phrasing "no dogs, pets, or other domesticated animals" is it creates a separate category of non-domesticated animals. And so by specifically saying dogs, pets, or domesticated animals are not allowed, then it inadvertently may say that non-domesticated animals are. So I think the intent's the exact same, but maybe just saying no animals are allowed, something like that.
Yeah,
to
the
be
reason
clear.
I said
horse.
domesticated animals was there's deer that wander through them, there's rabbits, and so I just thought we would allow wildlife to be in them.
Sure.
But I'm open to revising it to something that's less categorizing.
The unintended consequences of code writing, right?
I mean, we could take out the, domesticated animals. The reason I put it in there is, I wouldn't want a horse being allowed to, because we're just saying dogs and pets. Well, maybe a horse isn't a pet. I would not like to have horse droppings all over the park.
They go away. I'm just kidding.
It fertilizes it, yeah.
So, how does the council feel about the changes with perhaps taking out domesticated from that? revisions?
I think that's great. Thank you, Quinn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree that it was a little confusing. So I think that's a great clarification.
So are we removing domesticated animals though? Just
I'm
no dogs
saying
and pets?
No pets, period.
No pets, period?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that probably
I
is
agree.
more clear.
Okay, it sounds like we're all in agreement.
Okay.
Thank you, Quinn. Are there any other questions or concerns?
I have just one, letter H. With the firearms, no person shall carry. There is that law that just got passed regarding carrying. Is that in violation of that
Yeah,
law?
I think it's open carry law. You can carry, but you can't discharge.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Jamie about that, and
Isn't that what covered or as otherwise may be allowed under state law?
I saw that as a fireworks, but maybe,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, that was the phrasing that kind of covered that refers to state law as the
Okay.
ultimate authority.
okay, perfect.
Okay, anything else?
I have a question, actually.
Sure.
If we, on section B, motor vehicles, how specific do we need to be about motorized electric bicycles? Could someone argue if we're allowing an electric bicycle that it's a motorcycle could fall in the same category? I mean, we specifically prohibit motorcycles, motorbikes, off-road vehicles, but I just don't want us to open up opportunity for someone.
I may not be the expert on motorcycles and motorbikes and electric bikes, but my understanding is that those are specific kind of categories and descriptions, and an electric bicycle is a different category of vehicle than a motorcycle or a motorbike.
And I agree with that. I just want to make sure that we're not
As other self-propelled.
allowing someone to try to find a loophole, maybe.
It does include the phrasing and all other self-propelled mechanical vehicles. Tying to mechanical rather than the electric bicycle. Is that the dividing line?
I think you guys covered it pretty well.
Thanks.
Anything else? Then do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2021-02, City Code Title 7, Chapter 4-3, Park Regulations?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 2021-02, City Code Title 7, Chapter 4-3, Park Regulations with the agreed upon modification to change G1 to state certain animals prohibited, no pets are allowed in any city park except as provided herein. Dogs may be allowed within a designated dog park. See separate dog park rules and regulations.
Great. Do I have a second?
I want to second that because that was the best motion I've ever heard.
There you go, Quinn. All right. Any further comment? Okay, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. All right,
Thank you
next
for that
item
effort.
is Resolution 21-20 Dog Park Rules. Ordinance 2021-02 was presented to council for approval on April 13th, but there were alterations recommended. The ordinance needed to pass before the dog park rules were adopted, so the dog park rules were tabled and are now ready for review. Are there comments or questions on the dog park rules? Okay, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-20?
Mary, make a motion. We approve Resolution 21-20 dog park rules.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further comment? And we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Windsor.
Aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. Thank you. The next item is Resolution 21-25, Policies and Procedures Manual. South Weber City's Policies and Procedure Manual was last updated in 2015 with a minor revision in 2017. The Admin Finance Committee recommends doing an annual cleanup of the manual after each state legislative session to ensure state code compliance and to address any potential issues confronted during the year. This update is not a comprehensive review of the entire manual. The recommended amendments are items that the staff presented to the committee for clarification and standardization reasons and are being recommended for inclusion in the manual now as part of the annual update. Considering the last major manual review took place more than 5 years ago, staff believes a more complete review and update of the manual should be considered and scheduled, but this is not the intent of the current update. Are there comments or questions?
I thought you guys did a very good job in making the corrections.
Agreed.
Yeah,
Yeah, agreed.
okay. Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 21-25?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 21-25, updating city policies and procedure manual.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further comment? We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilman Halverson.
Aye.
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 And the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, the next we'll move to discussion items. And with that, we will talk about our budget. And this is a workshop for the tentative 2022 budget. And I will turn the time over to staff to review this.
Okay, Mayor and Council, I appreciate the opportunity to review with you and to discuss the draft. This is a draft of the tentative budget. And before I do so, I will apologize for the technical difficulties. I've got a technician coming out in the morning, so hopefully we'll have those resolved. But this is the draft, and it is the work of many hours of city employees as well as this council in multiple meetings, working through the various departments and committees and so forth. And I give my appreciation and thanks to everyone who's been involved in getting the budget to this point that it is. This is not the budget, the final budget. You will have noticed as you went through the budget that there were some areas in yellow. I didn't give an explanation previously on that, but those are areas that we don't have the final information. For example, there's some county information that they haven't published yet. Their report for this year, which we pull some information on. So there's information there. As you go through the budget and when we present it later, and I'm going to go over the timetable, some of you I know are following through YouTube. So Lisa, you can get to the next screen. We'll go to that, but with this tonight can go through more changes. We can do whatever you want to do. It's not hard, fast budget. And tonight is intended mainly for the council and not for the public, simply because this is a summary of all the work. And the first time that the council has seen all the work of the committees all in one document. I would ask, and you can encourage the citizens in the future. The most important part, I think, or a very important part, is at the beginning. You have the budget message and the highlights. And in the budget message and the highlights, we try to incorporate all the policies, procedures, and practices, which are the framework of putting this budget together. Many of those are just maybe a paragraph, but we don't go into all the detail of our policies, but we have, with the council's help and input, put in a lot of changes this way to identify what are the things that this budget contains. On the budget timeline, as you look at that, tonight is a review of the draft budget. On May 11th will be the presentation by the budget officer to the council of the tentative budget and the adoption of the tentative budget. These are the procedures outlined in state code. Following that, there will be 2 weeks for the public to review the budget here at City Hall and on the internet. And on the 25th of May, there will be a public hearing on the tentative budget. And once you get that feedback from the public hearing, you have the ability to make additional changes, additions, deletions on that budget up until the final adoption. The final adoption actually is in August. It would be in June, but we'll talk about why it's in August this year. And at that time, there will be the truth and taxation hearing, adopt our tax levy, and adopt the final budget. Some might ask, well, what do we do in July and August since we don't have a budget? Yes, you do have a budget. You've adopted the tentative budget, and that's what we work on in July and August for those months once we're into the next year. I apologize, I think I said June and July, but for July and August until we do the final budget. So tonight we are going to have a budget overview, and we are going to, it's on that screen, but I realize it's not on YouTube yet. We're going to go over several things. We're going to go over property and sales tax, utility fees, personnel and organization, interfund charges, and major capital. We're going to be doing this at a high level. We don't plan to get into the weeds unless the council makes that decision yourself. And so first we have on property tax, just going over the net. We are going to have a truth and taxation hearing this year. The net effect for our citizens is no property tax increase overall representing the city. However, the paramedic levy will be dropped by Davis County this year, and the city will be picking up that same percentage for our residents. Now, the county shows that on your tax notices as a separate item. We are not planning to show it as a separate item. It'll just be part of the overall property tax. But what we submit for approval on our tax levy will be revenue neutral in that respect, but it does increase what we'll be doing. The next area is sales tax. And we just want to remind you that we anticipate, we had a good year in sales tax. We thought the pandemic was going to affect us. We budgeted very conservatively, expecting a drop, but we don't expect that. Our sales tax is holding high. We anticipate 1,100,000 in total sales tax for the fiscal year 2022. 200 of that will be shown in the capital projects fund, and 900 of that will show in the general fund. The next area that people are generally interested in is our utility fees. Water, no change. Sewer, a 2% increase because of the 2% being passed on to us through Central Weber Sewer Improvement District. They almost every year have a 2%. Their budget is a 2%. For us, it was a 2.34 effective rate increase, but in the budget, it's showing a 2% increase. In sanitation, there was a per can increase from Robinson Waste of 12 cents, and the budget is passing that on. Last year, we had a 25 cent per can increase also from them, but because of the pandemic and trying to hold everything down and the effect that the pandemic we anticipated was going to have on our citizens, that 25-cent increase was not passed on, and we're not making it up in this year's budget. Just this most current 12 cent. So that's the change there. Storm drain is currently, that rate we know is going to go up. It's currently, we're working on all the documentation that needs so that study can be made. We will be having a study, third party doing a rate study to determine what is needed both for operation and maintenance, for future capital and future renewal and replacement. So we'll be looking at those. So we have anticipated a rate increase, but we don't know what that will be for sure. And once the new rate is comes before this council and is approved, what will probably happen is we'll do a budget amendment to reflect whatever the new rate is that the council actually adopts. Any questions on any of those? Well, that's okay. Personnel and organization. And I'm going to turn it over to David at this point.
As you can see on the chart there, well, if you look over to your right, you can see that it's not on your screen. No COLA is being presented in the budget. However, there's $36,000 that is set aside for merit increases for employees. Each year we reallocate, or we review and reallocate the public works full-time equivalent, how much time is being spent in the various enterprise funds. And so in the budget, you'll notice that that some of the personnel costs are shifted around that way to better reflect the actual time spent in the various departments, although Public Works acts as one large unit and shares time in that way. The other thing you'll notice in the budget is there's an overall increase of 1/2 of an FTE. So essentially a half-time employee is added to city staff. And I want to talk through where that shows up and how it shows up. You probably can't see any of the words on that screen, and that's because the organization chart by function in the city is fairly broad and fairly deep. The city manager name or title is at the top, and then the various span of control, the various functions that are directly reporting to me as a city manager across the top. And then underneath that, there's the various departments and the functions that are within those departments. Head back to the.
I was just trying to get to the.
Yeah, far on the left is administration, and it has a number of functions under there. What we're suggesting with this additional half-time employee, and if you go to the next one, you'll see the proposal is to do basically three things. One is to create what we're calling a community services department, and to decrease that span, what's the right phrase? I just lost it.
Span of control.
Is it span of control? Thank you for reminding me. FEMA recommends 5 to 7 for emergency management and other purposes. Our previous org chart didn't reflect that best practice. And so part of it is to better align those abilities and have functions more specifically tied to that better span of control and that best practice. But more than that, the two other main functions or main reasons for this recommendation in an org chart change is to give better time and attention to some of the functions that aren't receiving time and attention now. And those are emergency management, risk management, and human resources specifically. We're doing kind of the minimum level that's required, but we're not accomplishing all that could be done or is needed to be done there, as well as relieve some of the burden that comes because of that broad reporting structure to me, as well as that broad reporting structure to Mac as the finance director and the head of the administration department. The goal, as you'll notice, if you look at the functions underneath that community services department, is to create a full-time community services director position, which would accomplish the planning and zoning, would incorporate the city planning functions, would have the building permit and building licensing, as well as the code enforcement. Those three things are typically within a community development department in most cities. We're not calling this a community development department because there are other functions that we see as well. And as you look at that, you'll notice the emergency management, the risk management, the HR stuff that we feel could be accomplished within this as well. But I specifically highlight those three because they are very linear if you think about it, that the planning of development in the city, followed by the permitting and the actual building and inspection of the city, followed by the code enforcement of those codes that apply as one kind of linear process, and to have all of that be housed within one department. So right now, we essentially have one full-time employee that does some of these functions. We have a half-time employee and 2 half-time employees that do that. And what we're suggesting is to have 2 full-time employees and 1 half-time. That's where you get the additional half-time for personnel. I'm happy to answer any questions about that. Essentially, staff is requesting that additional resource so that we can make this organizational structure change. For me, as I look at it, this is setting the city up for the future in an organizational structure that allows for the type of emphasis on functions that need emphasis, that perhaps aren't getting the time and attention needed. But there will be a day when every single one of us is not in this room and we're not part of this organization. And for me, that structure and those functions reporting in that way makes the most sense. And that's why, from my chair, I think that's a good move.
Are there any questions?
I was just going to comment that, sorry if I'm overstepping on my bounds, Quinn, but the Finance and Administration Committee was briefed with this org chart, and we support the administrative role that staff's bringing forward and the span of control, and understood. It was more presented that should I do this or not, and our response was, well, this is an administrative decision. You are the leader, the administrative leader. So we support the staff's recommendation as to how they want to proceed forward, and appreciate the delegation, span of control, and succession planning effort that this all purports, and gets rid of the single points of failure.
Thanks, Wayne. I would add that this budget, of course, doesn't take place until July 1. But in order to be prepared for that, I would love for an approval essentially to begin the selection process so that we could have somebody selected, use the next 2 months to go through that hiring process so that somebody could be ready to go once the budget is officially adopted and we could offer employment.
So you're asking for that approval tonight?
Essentially to say, you're okay with us advertising for the position and starting to go through the interview process, knowing that until this is officially adopted and put in budget, we wouldn't hire the position.
Right.
We would wait until that's official, so that we're not waiting till July 1 and then starting the selection process.
The idea is hit the ground running come July 1, being contingent upon any budget approval. No recommendation or no offer letter would go out prior to a budget being approved, but you would be in a position to make that offer pending the budget is approved. Is what I'm understanding you to say.
Right.
All right. So council members, does anyone want to comment? Or should we just?
Well, I'll just second what Wayne said. You know, we agree with the administrative role and the effort to try to, you know, level load or get the span of control more manageable. And so I support them, you know, moving forward with some interview process and preparing for it.
Okay.
I appreciate that staff took the time to figure out where there may be some missteps in our current process and how we can make it more cohesive. So I think this is fantastic and I fully support that.
Thank you. It looks like everyone is in agreement.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you.
I know this has gone on, and I've talked to Dave about this for months and months, and so it is not a decision that's been made lightly, and I think it strikes a good balance with our staff, and a big boost that way. And so he has really done his homework and tried to figure out what is best. So, all right,
Okay.
then I guess.
There's two more areas that we wanted to cover. The next one, just briefly, just so you're aware of some of the things that are in the budget. We have an administrative service charge, which is charged to those funds which are to function like a business. Those administrative service charges were reviewed and adjusted in this budget. So you will see in those particular funds an increase in those. The budget also this year contains a new fund and new fund charges. That is the fleet management fund. This was presented to the council in a previous meeting, and the policy and the program was adopted. And so we have taken that and we've added that to the budget so that program can begin on July 1st. Last of all is one of the big expenditure areas in the city. And I'm just going to list over those major capital infrastructure expenditures which are in the budget. I think we're all aware of most of them, but I will highlight those and they will eventually show up on your YouTube screen. The first one is the demolishing of the civic building, the driveway, and the storage shed for $125,000. The next is the design of the public works facility that may start this year or even be completed in this fiscal year, but we budgeted in case if it doesn't start before July 1st, we have the money for next year. The Cherry Farms ball field is being rebudgeted. However, that was added today to this slide and added to the budget today. So in your draft packet that you had, the Cherry Farms ball field is not in there. It will not be it will be started in next year after all. We have the street projects in the Transportation Utility Fund totaling $685,000. The East Bench transmission line was in this year, along with the Job Corps project in the Water Department. That the Job Corps portion is being completed, but our portion, East Bench transmission line, has been rebudgeted. We also are looking, according to the CIP, which the Water Department has, of looking forward, what we're going to need to do to maintain our water lines. And this year is project number 2, which was to upsize the majority of the 8-inch lines within the city. And that has a cost of $750,000. And then the final project is the projects that are listed in the sewer department that were not done this last year and have been rebudgeted, and that is a total of $1 million, and those projects are outlined in the CIP. And that's a quick overview, and we're open to if you have any questions on specific things or general things that are in the budget, feel free. Dave and I are here to answer those questions. There is no adoption. This is just discussion only. But then again, I appreciate all the time that the council and others have put into this document.
All right. Thank you, Mac, and we appreciate all of your hard work and staff's hard work with this, and also the council. Are there comments or questions for Mac?
I got some things I'd like to share, if I may. And apologize ahead of time. I get a little animated and excited when we start talking about budgets. And as you remember, back in January's retreat, I kind of got into my old wheelhouse. So if I get a little over animated, that's because I'm really passionate about this aspect of my responsibilities. But having reviewed the 2021 tentative budget that was presented to us today, and well done, staff, for the level of detail we are at today versus 4 years ago when I looked at the first budget. I'm encouraged and pleased with the improvements that we've made from our financial decisions, including, just a list of the implementation of asset management philosophies, updating the capital facilities plans, establishing directives and philosophies for staff on fund balances, such as the reserve funds, long-term planning programs, creative competitive compensation plans to retain staff developing certification compensation programs, capital decisions such as the rehabilitation of the West Side Reservoir, restructuring the culinary water rates, restructuring the 2010 water bonds. The list goes on and on and on of the things that we and staff have been a part of that's improved the financial position of the city. And we have made significant strides that are proactive in this fiduciary responsibility. However, I feel more is required. The city faces some significant financial challenges in the next 4 to 10 years, and that's not, and that years that if not addressed today will have a negative financial implication for our future decision makers and for the citizens. Some examples include our streetlight replacement program. We understand the cost behind that, but the financial obligation to support that has not been vetted out. Our new public works facility you made mention of, we're going to do a design, but we haven't worked through the process of how is that going to be funded right now. The rehabilitation of the West Side water tank, that was a $400,000 decision that forestalled for 15 years the $3.5 million decision that has to come. What are we doing to prepare for that? We're now in year 2 of year 15. And we talked about this at a retreat, and we talked about all the committees going back and looking at a 4 to 10 year window as to what's faced with us capital wise, what's faced with us O&M wise, and we marry those together so we can get a bigger picture, so that was a council we could start giving some direction for the expectation of these costs, if those costs come in the year that we're expecting them. It's exciting to be a part of this, and I want to continue to be a part of that. Mac brought up the question about the stormwater utility fees, and that might be coming back to us. Well, one of the questions we have to decide, and Mac kind of gave me a heads up to this, and I don't mean to put my esteemed colleague from our Parks and Rec on the spot, but when we talk about our parks, Those are detention basins, I feel. The primary purpose is a detention basin, but the primary function is a park. Well, parks are funded through our general fund. Stormwater facilities and a detention basin is part of stormwater facilities, that's funded off of fees. So how are we funding the O&M of our park/detention basins? And that's a philosophical decision that's got to be discussed. And we'll discuss it in the Municipal Utilities Committee, but it also has a parks component. And how then do we address those things? It's that aspect of future planning that gets me excited and gets me part of, okay, how do we think forward so that these landmines or these, not problems, but these opportunities that are going to be faced, future council and future decision makers can be thought out and be prepared for, so that when they come up, we already have a plan in place. And that's what makes me excited as to where we're headed in the future and where we've been for the last 4 years. So in summary, I just want to thank the staff and the council for the decisions we've made and the implementations we've made along the way. We're in a great position today, but we have more to do.
Thank you, Councilman Windsor. Any other comments?
No, I don't have any comments other than to tell the staff that they've done a great job, and I think the council's done a great job. The question I did have, Dave, did you get your answer? Is that all you wanted, or did you want a formal motion?
Nope, I got my answer.
Okay.
All right, anything else?
I always feel bad because it's almost anticlimactic. You work for months to do this and then, nope, sounds good.
That's when you
Thank
know
you.
you've done your job right. When that happens, right, Angie? All right. If there are no more questions, yes, Dave.
Just one comment. I'd like to take the chance, if I may, to thank the council. I know you're thanking staff, but really, I don't think I've seen a city council as engaged and as involved in the budget process as this city and this council. The committee time, the committee effort, the committee meetings, all of the thought that goes into those. Staff is a support function here, and you have put so much time and so much energy into that. So we appreciate Mac and I and the other staff members that put time into this, but really you are the ones that have directed the efforts, and you are the ones that have made these decisions. And it's a pleasure working with you on that respect, with all that you dedicate of yourself to make these types of decisions and to prepare the budget to this point, knowing that there's still some final steps to take. But I told Mac earlier, I said, I don't know if we've ever been this far this early in the budget process with the detail that we have. And that's a credit to you for all of the direction you provided in committee meetings. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dave, and thank you, Mac. All right. Next item is new business. Anyone have anything? Share? I just have a question on, we talked just for a moment about the property tax levy. How are we going to get that information out to the public, and do we have a plan to?
Yes, we have a plan. And now that this conversation has taken place and the workshop here has taken place, we will start to prepare some more specific material related to that and present that to the public. We've had conversations already in open and public meetings about it, but now we will put more of the specific details together to roll that out, so that there's more than just the budget timeline that you saw in the open and public meetings. Although that's the minimum standard of noticing and public meetings, we want to do more to explain why we're going through the process the way we are. So yes, we are ready at this point, as we prepare to put the tentative budget together and adopt that, to explain what that property tax means and why we would go through a truth in taxation hearing.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? All right, let's move to reports then. Most of you have probably heard the Utah Transportation Commission just awarded $60 million for improvements to the US 89 I-84 interchange. This is great news for our city. I spoke with the Region 1 Director, Rob White, who explained that the project is separate from the US 89 Farmington to I-84 project. They could begin construction as early as next summer. And the cool thing about it is there's a very good possibility that the timeline with this interchange will coincide with the completion of the US 89 project. So this could be completed about the same time, which is pretty cool. The interchange will include a SPUI, which is a single point urban interchange to help with traffic flow. US 89 will be widened through the interchange to include three lanes each way, and then it narrows back down in Uinta to go up the hill to South Ogden with this phase 1 of construction. So on and off ramps of the interchange will be redone and greatly improved. And the Weber River Bridge on I-84 will be replaced, which is pretty cool because, and South Weber City needs to be proactive in making sure that the trail under this bridge is improved as well with the project. So the Weber River Trail portion. There will be improvements to the interchange that will help traffic flow for the next 5 to 8 years, after which a larger construction project, including flyovers, removal of the last traffic light, and added lanes up the hill to South Ogden will be added to this. So pretty exciting. Also, the Central Weber Sewer Board met, and they're looking at over 111 million projected to be spent on capital projects in the next 5 years. The board has a task of funding these projects while also covering costs of operation. And we talked about the 2% raise that happens typically every year. The Finance Committee met and made the recommendation that in 2022, there's a 10% increase in fees, and 2023, another 10% increase in fees, and then 24 and 25 will be a 2% increase in fees. So from 2022 to 2025, the board desires to maintain a consistent property tax rate, which is a slight increase from this year at a rate of 0.0006. And then also the board will proceed with the $21 million bond passed in 2021, which will recover approximately $6 million of existing 2008 Series B bonds and provide $15 million in bond revenue for capital projects.
If I understand correctly, there's going to be a 24% fee increase over the next 4 years from that one.
Yes, over the next 4 years. Yeah, it's a big pill. So, all right, next item, the last item I have is we attended the ULCT conference, the council did, and this was a great opportunity to get to know council members better and also find out just how large Angie Petty's mouth is. So we had a great time. No,
I don't think anybody had a doubt.
I don't think so either.
Without context, that phrase means a lot of different things.
Yeah, maybe gotta explain.
Food's very, very important to me.
She's very good at fitting large portions of food in her mouth all at once. So
Just like a lady.
That's right. At the conference, they had a legislative review, and I just wanted to cover a couple things from that. HB 98, which is that nasty bill dealing with building regulations and inspections. It was vetoed by Governor Cox to work on FEMA issues concerning National Flood Insurance Program requirements. But Cox is supportive of the bill and anticipates adding the bill to the special session they're going to have coming up. So, and then they also talked about the American Rescue Plan, or ARP, which is federal funding in response to COVID. This funding is directed to states, cities, and towns, and the legislature is looking for maximum impact and best use of these funds. They want to invest in businesses and residents impacted by COVID-19, stimulate sectors not recovering, and prioritize short-term investments with long-lasting impacts. There are also good breakout sessions on topics such as organization, land use, and public engagement. And they also had a keynote speaker, Arthur Brooks, who is a social scientist and author. And he talked about working together across ideologies and party lines and turning off contempt. One of the cool quotes that he gave that day was, moral courage isn't standing up for what you believe in. It is standing up with the people with which you agree on behalf of those you don't agree with. Anyway, that is all I have to report. So we'll now go to Councilman Halverson.
The only thing I have to report is we have the Hill Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board on Thursday at 6:30. You can watch it. It is virtual. They've not chosen to meet in person yet. And it's kind of a small agenda. They will be discussing the, and I can't even attempt to say it. I'm not as good as Wayne is on mosquitoes type information, but it's the PFAS. It's what their abbreviation, PFAS. That is the newly found substance in both of our operable units. So there will be discussion by Python, who is our representative on that. So I will give you an update.
And that's a healthy substance, right?
Yeah.
As
that
opposed
is-
to all the other ones.
It's better than some.
Okay, well, thank you. Councilwoman Alberts.
The PR committee will be meeting next Monday, I believe, and looking over the website and a couple other different items. So
I failed to mention that the PR committee is going to be involved in the property tax stuff.
Oh.
the PR committee will be involved in the property tax.
All right, thank you, Haley. Councilman Soderquist.
We've already discussed most of the things from the Admin Finance Committee, our policies and procedure updates and the budget. So I don't have anything new to discuss today.
All right, thank you. Councilwoman Petty.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. The Youth City Council, they're just amazing. And if anybody hasn't had the chance to work with them, I'm sorry. They're really fantastic. We met with them and we decided we would take a vote on our summer months, who wanted to continue to meet twice a month or maybe just go down to once. And it was like unanimous. They all wanted to continue twice a month. So I thought that was fantastic. And on that note, I had a gentleman reach out to me from an online magazine and ask some information about our Youth City Council. And so they actually published an article. It's utpollunderground.com. So like utahpoliticsunderground.com. He gives a history of South Weber and then a little shout out to our Youth City Council for being so involved. So I thought that was awesome. And I'll forward everybody the email, the article, so you can read it. It's pretty neat. And that's all I have. Thanks.
It's a great article and well-deserved, by the way. Thank you. Councilman Windsor.
I appreciate council donating their time to me because I have several things down here to which to update. To tag on to the mayor's discussion about ULCT, had the opportunity to speak with some important people with Rocky Mountain Power to the point where we now have a plan in place to get power to our new street lights, and they've committed to have power to those lights by mid-May. All the contracts have been paid. It's been scheduled. They apologize for dropping the ball. They admit they dropped the ball. And we will be inviting them to a future municipal utilities committee so that we can then share with them our future plan on streetlight replacement program so they could be a partner with us in moving forward so we can get a more timely resolve on our future lights. So that was one accomplishment out of that meeting. We also had an opportunity to speak with a fiber optic company called Strata Network, and they are going to be meeting with the Municipal Utilities Committee this Friday, April the 30th, and they're going to give us a whole presentation on a different means in which to bring fiber optic into the city, after which the committee has prepared Blair hasn't had a chance to read it yet, but a memo summarizing our research, and we hope to have that memo distributed within the coming weeks of May. We are going to commit to get that out in May, give it to the PR committee to publish, and share that with the public, and then we can have discussions and to talk about next steps. So we are getting time to put a bow on it and summarize what we've known or what we've learned so far. Mosquito abatement. Thanks for giving me a highlight on that, Blair. Mosquito abatement, both Salt Lake City, Davis County, were in the news recently. I don't know if you caught that. There is a group called the Utah Physicians for Healthy Environment who are using the mosquito abatement programs as a pawn, in my opinion, sorry, that's my word, to try to stop the development of the inlet port. They're basically claiming that spraying, I'll just read this. They would like all spraying to cease. For that matter, we could say the same thing about every other mosquito abatement district or state. He said, this is a practice that spreads biological poison throughout our environment. So they're using some emotional tactics to cease and desist all mosquito abatements from spraying larvicides in the waters that prevent mosquitoes from hatching. If we're approached as council members or as cities, you can't argue with the emotion, just direct them to the CDC and to the EPA, and they have documents out there that support that the proper use of these biologics are within safety standards and are used appropriately. So just want to make you aware of some of the politics that are being played out there in the public. Code committee is happy, pleased, excited to take this next step. We have put the final touches on the use definitions, the land use matrix, the modifications to the portions of Title 10, Chapter 5, all the different zones. And we're putting a packet together that's going to go out to the public via the city's website by the end of this week. We'll also be sending emails out to the city council and the planning commission so that they can access the links to review this information. We're trying to give primarily the public and the planning commission an extra week, 10 days to review the information. It's a sizable document. We're talking all said over 100 pages of information. What we're providing is a track changed version of the document that we're proposing to modify, along with a clean version. So don't be inundated with the amount of material. If you want to see the clean version is there as well. But we're putting forth a recommendation to the or suggestions, I should say, to the planning commission, and expect them to take several meetings to review all the information in hopes that they will give us some guidance and recommendation to the city council so that we can move forward with that process. The comment that was made in committee today summarized what we've been working on this since August of last year. And it seems like we've been doing a lot, but not reporting much. There's a lot of work here. And I suspect, at least it's my plan or my hope, that once approved, whatever the final deliverable is approved, that the city, the citizens, the council can rest assured that when any zone change recommendation is brought forward, that we have a higher degree of confidence of what can be allowed or what is permitted to be allowed as zone change is understood. So there isn't any hesitancy. Do I really want that zone to go in there, not knowing what the uses could be? And so that higher level objective is the overarching principle by which we move forward. And we hope the public sees that effort, and we look forward to the public comment. And hopefully, that we miss something, we hear what they have to say. So I know it's been a long time. We appreciate the patience of the planning commission, the public, and the council, but I think we're at a point where we're now ready to turn it over to the next stage, if you will, or next level, and move it forward. We do have a track log, and we've identified 9 next steps, 9 different items that we're looking at. As this one is now being brought forward to the planning commission, the code committee is now looking at the internal ADU ordinance. This is a new ordinance that needs to be written, and it has to be written and adopted before October 1st. given the new law that was put in or approved this legislative cycle. So we've made that a priority, as well as the section in Title 10 about conditional uses. We need to improve upon the definitions and approach to conditional uses. So those are our next two priorities that the Code Committee is looking at. Dave, I think we would be beneficial for us to clean up that spreadsheet in the next meeting, and we can share it with the council so they see what the Code Committee is working on. And in respect to council, if you see things we're missing or need to focus on, we welcome your input as well, so the Code Committee can then be redirected as we try to do your work and the city's work moving forward. I can keep talking if you'd like, but I think I've expended my allotment of time. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And thanks for lighting a fire under Rocky Mountain. I appreciate that. So, all right.
I enjoyed doing it. Sorry. I took pleasure in it.
Okay, Dave.
Reminder that this Saturday, May 1st, is the community service project over near the Posse Grounds at the trail around the dog park. Staff will be there early in preparation, and then we invite the community to come and join us at 8 a.m. If you can't be there right at 8 a.m., feel free to come another time, because we'll just work until it's done. And there's quite a bit there. So if you can, bring gloves so you don't get a blister. We'll have some tools, but if you want to bring a rake or a shovel, definitely put your name on it somehow, mark it, right, so that it doesn't become a lost and found item. But as many people as can come, there's work to do there, and we appreciate
I just have a comment on that. If you want to meet our youth city council, they're all planning on attending. A large majority have committed to coming to help that. So thank you.
Awesome.
We asked them if it was too early, and they all scoffed and said, no, it's fine. So we'll see.
Wow.
Speaking of things going on this week, tomorrow I have a meeting with the Regional Growth Council, the Transportation Advisory Committee, the RGCTAC, which is a subset of Wasatch Front Regional Council, to review our request for our general plan updates to make it onto the regional planning document. So there's a series of meetings. The first one is tomorrow for them to review that application, and I'll be on that meeting and make sure that our point of view is said clearly.
All right.
The last thing I'll report is we had Sherry and I had a discussion today with the property owner who's looking to develop a subdivision of homes on the west side of town in the area that has the boundary line between Weber County and Davis County. There, our annexation plan goes across that county boundary, and so they approached us with a lot of really good ideas and a willingness to potentially annex into the city, and then say, we are willing to not build any homes on that northern side until we could figure that out. And so anyway, there's details there that I don't necessarily need to get into, other than the boundary line is still something to be discussed. And I've reached out to get the two counties and the two cities together. There's been a little bit of a hiccup in terms of who at Weber County should be involved in those discussions to carry them the fastest and the farthest. But I've doubled my efforts to get in touch with them, reached out to the county commissioner directly. So hopefully that larger conversation that we want to have will happen soon. And if that larger conversation can include this property, make it easier for them, great. But just wanted you to know that those types of conversations are taking place.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Mac, did you have anything else?
Nothing additional.
Hey, Brandon.
No.
You've been very quiet tonight. Okay. Lisa or Michelle, anything? No. All right. If there's nothing, then I will entertain a motion to go into closed session per UCA section 52-4-2051D to discuss the purchase, exchange, or lease of real property.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we will move to closed session with a 5-minute recess.